morning. If we could call to order the April 6th Vision Zero Advisory Committee meeting. Amanda, if you could call the roll to establish quorum.
Yes, ma'am. At this time, I'm only asking those VZAC members attending in person to respond by saying here when I call your name. I want to remind you to unmute your microphones by pushing the button on the base prior to responding. The light will turn red. Alternates, please also state your name if you are attending on behalf of a VZAC representative, and I will call in people who are virtual as well in a moment. Bruce Rosenzweig, Craig Pinder, Ted Goodenough,
Here.
Joanne Oliva,
Here.
Joanne Scaria,
Here.
Fadi Nassar, JC Beery, David Willick,
Here.
Jean Matthews,
Here.
Bruce Goyton, Michael Owens, Christian Santa Gonzalez,
Here.
Christine Perdoma,
Here.
Eliza Hansen, Amy Alvarez, Tracy Phelps,
Here.
Stephanie Thoburn,
Here.
Wabette Hay.
Here.
We do have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any modifications to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair. The following member is requesting VZAC permission to participate remotely. Michael Owens, due to ongoing staff shortages at the Palm Beach County School District.
Are there any objections to Michael?
Let's see.
Owens, is he here?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And Bruce just walked in. Welcome, Bruce.
Yes, Bruce Rosenzweig.
Okay. Seeing none, then you're approved to participate remotely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And so minutes for the March 2nd meeting. Are there any changes to the minutes? No hands. Okay. So can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes from the March meeting.
Joanne made a motion. Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Joan. J and J. Any, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. The motion passes and we've approved the March meeting minutes. And next are general comments and public comments on agenda items, and instructions on how to provide public comments are in the agenda. Are there any general comments that we received?
Not at this time, Madam Chair.
Okay, so we'll move on. So comments from the board, and I always like to open it up to everyone here. I know, Tracy, I missed your last comment on the diverging diamond. I would have liked to have seen that. But anybody else? Last time when I wasn't here. Anybody else have comments for the board? Hi, Christine. I don't think we've met. Okay, Tracy.
Since you brought it up, the divergent diamond is now supposedly complete at its utmost capacity that it will have, and seems to be running well this week. So there's no more excuses, and it's open and at full capacity. Take a spin through it and see and get an idea for how it operates. How's it working? This week it's working really well. So when DOT finished, I'll give DOT and the contractor credit. They opened it a couple months ago, but it was not a capacity. It was not finished. And they said it'd be finished by May 1st, and on April 1st or 2nd, they got it done a month ahead of time.
From your perspective, has it improved mobility in terms of through that interchange, or has it what
This
are
week-
some goods about it? And
This
some
week it
bads?
has.
This week it has.
Since it opened on, reopened, they closed it down the weekend, and since it's reopened on Monday, it's been working very well. But we're gonna hold off or watch it for a few weeks and see how it is in a couple weeks. So, but I mean, it's safer. But as if it provides a better travel time, that will be remain to be seen.
Okay. Bruce,
Yeah, just to add on to that, I drove through it a couple of times last week, and while the idea of it is somewhat counterintuitive, the road markings and directionals make it fairly easy. I was a little focused on making sure that I was going the direction I was supposed to go, but it's pretty clear what to do. So I don't think that it should be an issue as far as creating any, traffic problems.
just a question on that. Did you drive through it or did you try to ride your bike through it?
I drove in my car.
I see some welcome
respond.
faces here.
Just
Respond.
respond. Yeah, go take another trip through it. They put the asphalt on and the final striping. So it should be even better this week. It's easier because during construction, they got temporary striping and some of it's hard to see. And it's not actually always right, but if you go through this week, you should like it even better.
Okay. Body and JC and is it Momosi? Okay. Do you guys, we're on comments. Did you have any comments for the board? Wanted to include you? No? Nothing new? Okay. All right. So, okay, so we'll move on. So then the next item is the VZAC liaison report and Valentina is going to provide that update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I hope everyone has had a great week so far. First item on the agenda is we would like to welcome Rachel Corner. She's the new secretary for the TPA. So we're happy to have her. We'd like to extend our congratulations to the town of Lake Park for recently passing a Vision Zero resolution on March 15th. That makes the 13th municipality within our county to adopt a Vision Zero resolution. So we're very excited about that. We're getting closer and closer to our goal. So on April 28th, we will be hosting a Vision Zero workshop. We do encourage everyone to attend. As you all know, 13 municipalities have adopted a Vision Zero policy. So we encourage those 13 municipalities to attend because we will be going over how to create a Vision Zero action plan. But if your municipality has not adopted a Vision Zero policy yet, then we do encourage you to still attend and learn more about Vision Zero. The Safe Streets and Roads for All fiscal year 2023 grant program is now accepting applications through July 10th to fund local, regional, and tribal initiatives to prevent roadway deaths and serious injuries. So 4 municipalities and Palm Beach County have received the award for the Safe Streets and Roads for All to fund a Vision Zero action plan. We do encourage everyone, those remaining municipalities that have already adopted a Vision Zero policy to apply for the Safe Streets and Roads for All for a Vision Zero action plan. So the deadline is July 10th. Next is the United States Department of Transportation has initiated a call to action to its allies to compile and share the best practices. And this is really to commit to action for our shared goal of serious injuries, zero fatal and serious injuries. So encourage you to visit their website. Then the Federal Highway Administration is hosting a webinar on equity and roadway safety on April 17th. I'm registered to attend. I highly encourage you all to register. equity is extremely important when it comes to designing our roads. So we can make sure that all users of all abilities are thought of in the design process. So we encourage you to register. Next, we have our governing board meeting on April 20th. If you would like to attend, you can visit our website. And the TPA is hosting a speaker panel event on May 5th on the connection of land use and transportation. To register, you can visit our website at palmbeachtpa.org/TOD panel. And Palmtran is actually hosting or conducting a survey to determine interest in an express bus service between Port St. Lucie and downtown West Palm Beach. So to learn more, you can visit palmtran.org. And we just recently wrapped up Florida Bicycle Month. So next is May, which May is National Bike Month. And this was actually established back in 1956. National Bike Month is really an opportunity to encourage and showcase the many, many benefits of using a bicycle. So if you would like to participate in the National Bike and Roll to School Day, that is May 3rd. Then May 7th is National Ride a Bike Day, and May 15th through 21st is Bike to Work Week. And that concludes my liaison report.
Okay, great. So on to action items, which is really our main item for today, is the recommendation for the 2023 Transportation Alternatives TA Program Project Application Rankings. And Valentina's going to give us a presentation on this. And are we also going to be seeing the individual applicants, or are you presenting each of them?
Yes, so I will be presenting on all of the applications, but the applicants are available to answer any questions.
Okay.
Yep. So good morning again, everybody. So for today's presentation, I'll be giving you all a brief overview of the Transportation Alternatives Program, as well as go over some of the important dates that are coming up, and go over all of the applications that were submitted for the Transportation Alternatives Program. So as I did state, we did invite all applicants to attend this meeting to answer any questions. You are more than welcome to ask them any questions at the end of the presentation or myself. And as a reminder to you all, this is an action item, so I will be requesting a motion at the end of the presentation and discussion. So the Transportation Alternatives Program is a 3-year program that can fund projects on or off the federal aid roadway system. And it typically funds projects such as safe routes to school, pedestrian bicycle infrastructure, pedestrian lighting, and just any safety improvements. So for this funding cycle, we have an anticipated total amount of $5.1 million of available funding, with a maximum reimbursement amount of 1.5 million and a minimum reimbursement amount of 250,000. Now, as I mentioned, this is a 3-year program, so funding for construction will become available July 1st of 2026. And as a reminder to you all, design is funded locally, so that happens 2024. So the way that we have developed our scoring system is based on 3 criteria: what, where, and why. And this scoring criteria really aligns with the TPA's goals, objectives, and performance measures, which are within our long-range transportation plan. So when we, for the first criteria, we talk about what kind of facility you are proposing. So whether that's a pedestrian facility, bicycle facility, and it also depends on the width and the length. So say, for example, you have a project that's proposing a 10 feet shared use path, but it's only a 1/4 mile. And then another project is proposing a 10 feet shared use path that's a mile. The project that's proposing a mile shared use path is going to get higher points. So we also have a criteria of where the project is being proposed. So the TPA really prioritizes projects that are within any traditionally underserved area, within the high injury network, if it's close to any transit hubs, things of that sort. And also why the project is being proposed. So on the screen there, I have an example of a project that was completed a couple years ago. Seacrest from Delray Beach, they did complete streets improvements, and that project in particular had positive environmental benefits. So that's one of the reasons of how you can get a higher scoring if your project has positive environmental impacts, or if it's supported by any local communities or anything of that sort. So really take a second to digest all of the upcoming schedules that we have here coming up. As you all know, today we'll be going over the scoring and ranking for all of the applications. The next very, very important date is the resolution of support. So if you have not already submitted your resolution of support for your project, please make sure you submit it by April 28th, because that is the deadline. So after we have compiled all of the documents and have finalized the scoring and the rankings, then we move on to our very next important date, the draft list of priority projects, which essentially we will be including the TA projects, the local initiatives projects, and the state road modification projects into this draft list of priority projects. And that happens early July. So then after that, we have to get it approved by our TPA governing board, and that typically is going to happen late July. So once it's approved by our governing board, then FDOT releases a draft tentative work program. Now, I just want to clarify that if you do see your project on the draft tentative work program, that does not mean that it's final. Nothing is final until you see your project on the TIP, which brings me to my next very important date, June 2024. The TIP is up for adoption. So how this happens is FDOT provides a final version of the work program to the TPA and then builds the TIP. So then the TPA adopts the TIP and transmits it to FDOT, FHWA, and FTA. So here's a summary list of all of the projects. All of the applicants that submitted a transportation alternatives application. As you can see, the very, very first project, Village of Wellington, unfortunately, they had to cancel their project recently. So for today's presentation, I'll be going over the remaining 5 projects. So as I mentioned, we do have an anticipated total amount of 5.1 million. And with those 5 projects, we have total requested of approximately 4.9 million. So we do have a little bit of funding left over. Excuse me. First project is City of Boca Raton. And this project is on Northwest 6th Way from south of Northwest 38th Drive /Circle to Spanish River Boulevard. And they are proposing a 10 feet shared use path, as well as pedestrian and bicycle intersection improvements. And this is a really exciting project because they're actually proposing a bicycle signal, which would actually be the first bicycle signal within Palm Beach County. So that's very exciting. They're also proposing a 2-way bicycle crossing. And in addition to the shared use path, they will be connecting that shared use path to the El Rio Trail. And as you can see there on the yellow pointing, they're also proposing a pedestrian and bicycle roundabout on the El Rio Trail. So that's going to be great for pedestrians and cyclists. And this project is located in various priority locations, such as it's near the Tri-Rail station, it intersects with the El Rio Trail, and has some schools nearby. Next is application from Palm Beach County, and their project is on Camino Real from Spanish River Boulevard to South Ocean Boulevard, also known as State Road A1A. So they're proposing a 7 feet buffered bike lane on both sides of the road and a 5 feet sidewalk on the south side. Now, this project had a high scoring due to its wide proposed facility on both sides of the road. And Camino Real is actually, well, at least this section of Camino Real is a tier 1 bike corridor, which is a priority for the TPA. And this project is also within 2 miles of Palm Trans service. It has some recreational parks nearby and has some schools nearby as well. And if you're not too familiar with this location or Boca in general, this is right next to A1A, which actually A1A is where cyclists most use that road because of its safe bicycle facilities, at least on the south side. Next is Spruce Avenue for the city of West Palm Beach. So their project is on Spruce Avenue from 36th Street to 40th Street. And they're proposing 5.1 feet of advisory bike lanes on both sides, as well as ADA curb ramps and crosswalks. They're actually updating their existing sidewalks to be ADA compliant to ADA standards. They're also proposing traffic calming, such as speed humps and some pedestrian scale lighting. And then if you're not too familiar with what an advisory bike lane is, the way that I would describe it is it essentially looks like a designated bike lane, but it acts like a sharrow. So with a designated bike lane, it has a solid line or a solid pavement marking. And an advisory bike lane has a dashed or dashed pavement marking, dashed line. So with that dashed line, it actually allows vehicles to maneuver or pass any cyclists, which is what I mentioned. It kind of acts like a sharrow. And on the next slide, I'll show you all what that looks like, just as an example. So this project also was very distinct in its scoring, as it was high priority based on its location. So this was actually the only project being in a very high traditionally underserved area. And if you're not familiar with this area too well, Spruce Avenue is actually located on the Northwood Historic District, which is about 2 miles north of the TPA office. So if you want to see what that looks like, just drive up. This project also received various local support, and the project was identified in the city of West Palm Beach's mobility plan. So this is what an advisory bike lane looks like. And this is actually an existing facility along Spruce Avenue. So that proposed advisory bike lane would be a continuation of their already existing advisory bike lane. And advisory bike lanes are typically best implemented on narrow and slower speed roads. So the next project is from Palm Beach Gardens on Lilac Street from North Military Trail to Plant Drive. And they're proposing to widen their existing sidewalk to a 10 feet shared use path, add in a new 10 feet shared use path on the north side, and add in a new mid-block crossing with rectangular rapid flashing beacons, also known as RFBs. So to provide a little bit more context for you all, on the south side of this road, there is a high school, and directly adjacent on the north side, there's a park. Currently, there's only one way for pedestrians to cross the street mid-block. So this mid-block crossing will actually be providing a second way for pedestrians, or an alternative way for pedestrians to cross mid-block, which will make it safer. And finally, Indian Trail Improvement District has 2 sections, one on 140th Avenue North from Orange Street to 61st Street North. And then the other one is along 61st Street North from 140th Avenue North all the way to the M1 canal. They are proposing an 8 feet ADA compliant unpaved path on both sections. This project is located within a priority area, as it is on the medium traditionally underserved index. It's also within 2 miles of a park and an elementary school. And as you can see, the project didn't score too high because unpaved paths typically don't score very high on our scoring system. So they did score a 21.60. So as I mentioned, this is a list of all of the applications that we received. We do have some of the applicants available to answer any questions as well as myself. So with that, I would like to request a motion to recommend adoption of the 2023 Transportation Alternatives Program Project Application Scoring and Rankings.
I appreciate that, Bruce. But as Jean has told us, we like to talk about these a little bit, just because we're the Vision Zero Advisory Board and we want to recognize the work that the different municipalities provide. Do we have any comments? I think I saw Fadi first. Go ahead, Fadi.
Yeah, my comment is really about the TA application. I serve on the school traffic, basically traffic safety board. And there always question what kind of improvement are as part of the safe route for school. I know we can probably, propose sidewalks, but I wanted to know something like flasher, crosswalk, something like that. Do we have kind of a list of some understanding what they can apply under the safe, it's a safe route to school under the TA program. So at least they don't waste effort on something that may not be directly applicable.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually on the TA program overview that's on our website, but I'll be more than happy to share that with you, that we do have a list of all of the elements that are that you can apply for safe routes to school projects. So you could apply for both infrastructure and non-infrastructure projects. So for infrastructure, yes, you could apply for a RFB, flashing beacons, anything of that sort.
Okay. Jean? Oh, my goodness. Okay. Exciting. Exciting ruckus. It's a good introduction to what you're going to say, Jean.
No, I was just going to comment that I'm very familiar with this. I used to go to church on 6th Avenue, 6th Way there, and what you're seeing there is all student housing for FAU. And if the students get out on the bike lane, then they can get on the El Real Trail and they can get to FAU. They can get to Tri-Rail very easily. And this is just a really good, and even on a Sunday morning, there were a lot of bicycles here. So I think this is a really good and really needed path.
Okay. Bruce?
Okay, so where the El Rio Trail intersects Spanish River on the north side, it had previously continued directly across, and I guess the island in the middle was closed off fairly recently. Is that correct? Yeah, so this is going to replace what had been that direct connection of the El Rio Trail, and it's going to be connected further south on 6th Way now.
Yes, I think Tracy, if you want to.
Yes. That's gonna be, we hope people will follow. We already have signs. We already have signs out there to have people go to the intersection. So we're making that sidewalk there into a shared use path. We're providing separate bicycles and pad signals so as to not, because we do get a lot of bicyclists crossing. And all they can do now is push the pad button, and that's 25 seconds of walk time. It only takes a bike about 5-10 seconds. So we're wasting or lowering capacity on the Spanish River, and by having separate signals, we'll be able to time them separately. And that's what we're trying to do until it could be permanent, it could be temporary. We're looking at other ways to fix that crossing, but the way it was crossing Spanish River, it was a design flaw by those in charge 10 years ago when they designed that interchange. It's just too dangerous. So we bring people to the intersection where they can cross safely. And so we needed to make some improvements to that intersection. And that's why on the plan, you will see a connection from that short shared use path back to put yourself back on the El Rio Trail.
Could you explain a little bit more in depth, what this unique, crossing light that you mentioned, what that's gonna be?
Well, you
The
have a
bicycle
ped-
signal?
Yeah, you have a
Yeah,
ped
go ahead.
signal, you have signals that will have bicycle indications in them. The bicyclists will push one signal and the pads will push another
Really?
button. Hopefully. And so the bicyclists will get, we'll figure it out, it'll be 10 seconds or so, whereas the pads per engineering standards, it's 3.5, 4 feet per second. They get 25 seconds to cross for walking. So it was just, there's a lot of bicycles, and when they push the ped button and bicyclists cross, they're crossing 5-10 seconds, and there's 15 seconds where everybody's just waiting for nothing. So, and that's not good for intersection capacity. So we figured this would be a good way to make it safer for bicyclists and pedestrians and to improve capacity and lessen delays at that intersection at the same time.
Okay, all right.
Until we can do something final, which I don't know, we'd like to put the trail under Spanish River Boulevard somehow. Or you don't have to detour over to the intersection, but that's a more costly and something environmental problem that's going to take a lot more time to look at.
Okay, Joanne, did I see your card up?
I did have my card up, but I was gonna ask the same question about more details about the bicycle signal. So
Okay,
my question has been answered. Thank you.
Mr. Good Enough.
I just have a question about the different buttons. How would a non-visual person identify which button was for cyclists and which was for pedestrians? Is there a plan to make that happen?
The city of Boca is in the process of replacing almost all of their pedestrian push buttons with the audible push buttons. And I'm sure we can make those buttons audible for bicyclists also.
Well, see, a cyclist is likely going to have vision. So if
Right.
they're both beeping, again, you've defeated the purpose of the audio, because now you've got two different ones. How do I know which one to push so that Rosie and I can cross the street?
Well, that's something we'll have to look at. I don't have an answer for you right now.
Okay, just bringing awareness.
No, I appreciate it. That's something we really haven't thought of, but that I definitely appreciate you bringing it to my attention.
Great. Wibbit, I saw you making comments. Would you like to say something?
I used to ride the railroad trail before, and I loved the way that they had the connection between from one side to the next instead of having to go down to 6th Avenue to make that go across the street and come back the other direction to go back on the railroad trail. I just think, I mean, if you're focusing on bicycles, it makes no sense. That's just my thought based on my experience. And there has to be a way for you to allow it to be safer for both bicycle and pedestrians, because people do walk it, the rail trail just the same. And you mentioned something about the timing. If you have an individual that's not a normal individual that can walk across that street on the same pace that you and I can walk across the street, that timing is necessary. So you have to think about everybody when we're designing, not just the cars.
That is correct. That's why although most agencies and state has there as 4 foot per second walking speed. We actually use 3.5. So the time is actually increased to
I
walk
hear you,
across.
but I've done a lot of walking audits and what I've realized, and it's not only city of Boca, but it's like little everywhere. The timing on those pedestrian walking beacons are not enough for a person that's impaired. If
Mhm.
it's normal, it's okay for me and you, but for somebody that doesn't have the mobility that you and I have, it's not enough.
Mhm.
So maybe there's, and I don't know what the answer to that, the solution to that problem is, but it's really
Well,
not.
the answer is for us to do a walking audit and actually see how long the people are taking across, and that's something can easily be adjusted by just plugging a couple values into our traffic into our TMC and download it to our controller to change that time. We find that it needs to be and that'd be for everybody. I understand because we follow the DOT standards when we time those PEDs. And so, yeah, I think it does need to be, it would need to look at like a walking audit or something just to see.
Sounds like something for Valentina.
Yeah, we do have a walk bike safety audit program. So thank you for bringing it up. Yeah, we will discuss as a group and see next
think
steps for that.
That'd probably be a good location to do one too.
Okay, Jean?
I just want to commend you for moving it down to 6 as a frequent motorist on Spanish River. There's the flashers when the bikes are coming across, and they always catch me off guard because they're mid-block, and I have to remind myself, look for them. It's the same way there's another crossing mid-block by Costco. And so the bikes push it, they think people are going to stop, and people don't acknowledge it, or they don't see it and they don't stop. The other thing I'd like to see is no right turn on red if somebody has pushed the button to walk or cross, because that's a frequent problem, is that people want to cross. And to your point about crossing like say Linton and Federal, they want to cross 6 lanes. Well, people are going right and they don't acknowledge the walker. And so all of a sudden, you're 30 seconds back before you can even step into the road.
Right, the reason for why this project is the cost is it is, we are going to do that.
No right turn on red?
Yes.
Yay.
But we need to replace the existing signal because putting extra weight on that mast arm will what cause it to fail, will not meet the standards. So that's a high part of the cost. Is replacing the mast arm signal to put those no right turn on red signs on there. Cause I ride a bike, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a week from my office to LA Fitness at lunchtime, and nobody stops. Pedestrian or bicyclists walking across the street, they just don't stop there for those right turns. So yeah, that was one of the first things we looked at, was no right turn.
I have a question.
Okay.
Maybe you can answer, Tracy or Valentina. What are the specifics on at any pedestrian or bicycle accidents at this location along the El Rio Trail and crossing mid-block? Is there any data on that? Do you know?
We've had some accidents. We had one that was major where I think the lady threatened to sue the city, even though it was during the construction and was really not under our jurisdiction at the time.
Okay, so
The old cross.
a lot, kind of trying to get an idea of that.
We haven't really checked the signal for.
Okay,
We just we know the complaints and we just, it's just dangerous.
okay.
People do not stop even for the rapid flashing beacons. We've done studies at other locations when they're within the city, and stop rate for vehicles is 50-60%, even when the flashing beacons are on.
Okay, good to know. David?
A couple years ago, we advanced the El Rio Trail lighting. I think it was 2 years ago. And this is connecting up to that too. What's the when we were talking about that project, they had a couple options like solar lighting. I'm wondering how that project progressed and kind of what the final decisions were.
We actually just talked about that this week. We're going to send that project, a work order for that project be designed here, hopefully send the work order out in the next couple of months to start the design on that project. But yes, we want those type of lights that you mentioned. And that's what we're gonna, in the work order, that's what we're gonna ask the consultant to look at.
And really, that was forward thinking. Hopefully some of the other, future candidates, sort of think along the same path. I think that's the first time I've ever seen it. So.
And since this portion is actually a short portion of where those lights we'll probably still do the lights behind, because there'll still be people who will use the trail that goes behind those apartments, whereas the new design here will take you in front of the townhomes or whatever, and then you connect back. But we also, on this plan, we hope to have the same type of lighting out front where we're detouring people to go instead of crossing and going back behind the condos there at that corner. So we looked into that for this project too, to have those type of lights. Even though there's existing lighting, some lighting there, we want to add some lighting of that type along the shared use path.
One of my comments on this was that it's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine where we increase vehicular medians versus, so this one increases the median from 4 feet to 10 feet for the vehicles versus was wondering why that green wasn't going out to provide more of a buffer to separate pedestrians from the travel lane. In that 10 feet going there, I just was wondering why that determination was made, given that it's Boca too.
I don't think we're doing anything to the median. I'm gonna be more specific.
The median was going from 4 feet to 10 feet according to the section. So I was just curious.
The median's not one side of the median. Nothing's been done to the median. All the work's been done on the outside.
Okay, so then maybe the section's not
It could
correct.
be.
They are getting rid of some lanes, right, Tracy?
We're getting rid of a long right turn lane that begins at the Spanish River Boulevard. There's 2 lanes. One's a through lane and one's the beginning of a right turn lane into those condos. We are shortening that because that's too long, and we're tightening it up a little bit because drivers making that right turn that don't stop for pedestrians and bicyclists. They got 24 feet, so they just come fly through and make the right turn. They have 2 lanes kind of to get into by now, and so we're shortening it and shortening that turn lane and adding and making it 1 lane, and then it turns back into a through lane and a right turn lane.
Well, maybe there's time to take a look at that to see if getting rid of that turn lane then provides a little buffer for example, on the other side of the road where the walkway is directly adjacent to the travel lane. Yeah, it's the typical section A, proposed Spanish River Boulevard. And it shows, in this case, a 14-foot landscape median in the middle of the road, and the existing is a 4-foot landscape.
At some point, where that section was taken, it is 14 feet between these two turn lanes. That's why it's like
Yeah,
that.
if you, I'm just,
I keep going.
suggestion to look at.
But the
Yeah, there's the existing on the,
median, as far as there's no proposed work in the median, so it will be existing. What we are doing is adding some trees and, or not trees, probably some shrubbery and some additional impervious area or pervious area where the long right turn lane is, the southbound right turn lane is. And if she wants to bring up that plan sheet in there, on there, if you have it.
On the screen.
This a visual you'd like?
Yes. So nothing being done to the median, but what is being done is all that green space with the little shrubbery and stuff, that's pavement now. So that's being turned into landscaping and grass, and that right turn lane is being shortened to what it really only needs to be. So that tightens up that right turn lane there to hopefully slow people down a little more.
okay,
And I'm also said, wasn't mentioned, we're adding rapid flashing beacons on the next page. We're adding rapid flashing beacons there for people to cross.
yeah, there's just a disconnect with this, the section that I was looking at then. All right, so would we like to go to the next project or, oh, okay, Mosi?
Yes.
Mosi,
For the northbound lane, was anything looked at for the bicycle lane there, or is that going to just remain?
No, that will remain.
Will anything be looked at to try to tie it into the proposed bicycle crossing so that any cyclists on the northbound will also have a safer form of travel across Spanish River?
Well, they will have, the next page, there's a rapid flashing beacon what they could use to cross over to the other side.
Thank you.
okay.
Yeah, there's a rapid flashing beacon where they could cross at the crosswalk there at those two driveways.
I do have a question, Tracy. Why is that existing crossing going to be removed?
Because we don't want to put two rapid flashing beacons back to back. Which if we're putting one at one crossing, we really should put one at the other one. There's only one needed.
Okay. So do we want to go through the next project or do we want to have more general comments? Because from what I understand, everything's being funded. Okay, okay, Jean. So the next project is the county project. Any questions or comments on this? Okay, Jean.
Hi, I grew up in this area, and if you look right at the end of the red line is the start of South Inlet Park. It's a county beach park. It's super popular. We have parking there. You have to pay at a kiosk and a historic pavilion. And one of the things is the Camino Real Bridge was just redone. And so one of the things that happens is traffic stacks on either side when the bridge goes up. And the bicycles, and I understand why they do this, kind of go in the not the closed lane and kind of stack up at the top of the bridge on both sides. So when the bridge goes open, the bicyclists go in mass over the bridge, which is fine. I mean, it's really short. But then they're on the shoulder of the road and the road is really narrow. So when I'm in that situation, I'm like, the bike's going 15, I'll go 15. I'm not going around any bike in such a narrow space. So this is great. So this, the bikes can take off and then they can get in the bike lane and then it's not gonna hold traffic up, but it is so needed. If you could see, there can be 20 bikes on either side on a Sunday afternoon when the bridge is open. It's such a needed improvement. And a lot of people walk this area. And so there's a lot of pedestrians. On the other side, you can't see, but it's Boca Hotel and Club. And there's a lot of people who will park on this side and walk to that side and vice versa. And this is just a really long needed project. I mean, it's been needed for 20 years and it is a great project.
One of the questions I had, and maybe Fadi, you can help on this one. I saw a lot of letters of opposition. And how do you, if this gets funded, it looks like it might, how do you deal with the large number of opposition related to that? I mean,
I'm not sure if we can, could you show maybe, I don't know, a street view, maybe zoom in to the end of the blue line? You know, before we started this project, we knew they're gonna be 4 or 5 letter opposition, even that from the start. These are people who have their driveway, basically, it is on the road right away. They literally paved the road right away. So we had no illusion that they're gonna oppose that. And I think that's the reason this project have been, in fact, we're doing it on behalf of the city of Boca, but you know, they wanted to do it for a long time. Everybody realized there's a strong need for it. But we know, I mean, those people will oppose it. I went there personally, I spoke to the hotels, to the residents, there were some bikers, everybody loved the project. Unfortunately, we only get few letters of support, but clearly you can see a lot of bikers on the road. And, you know, we use that, we have our own kind of sidewalk project at the county level, and we know some people will always oppose, but you want to make sure that the opposition is for a good reason, not just because, you know, for some kind of selfish interest. So, yeah, when we do, I mean, one option we could do is maybe instead of having the bike lane plus the sidewalk, maybe stop the sidewalk at that location. But clearly we're not, I mean, the bike lane is needed. And just because those residents paved their driveway all the way to the road edge, I don't think it's a justification for not doing the project.
yeah, it just, they just stuck out. So I just hope that I hope that you can get more letters of support to help weigh it out a little bit more.
You know, I went personally and I spoke that there's a lot of hotels around.
Mm.
Everybody was in support, but again, we asked them to send letters that didn't, and that's not unusual. And I did see bikers, I stopped them, I spoke to them. You know, the letter we got, for example, from the hotel, I think it used to be Boca Resort and Club, now is that alone, I think they have 2 sections, one north of the bridge and one really on the beach side. I mean, clearly their users will go between one location and another, and having an opportunity to not use a car or something is definitely something, you know, even if they walk, just separating bikers and pedestrian, improve the safety of everyone. This is literally will reduce the conflict between pedestrian, bikers, and cars.
Tracy? Oh, Bonnie?
And you know, there's only one dot. I don't know if you can highlight it with maybe this one dot where they have the 4 homes.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only, this the only, you know, they're like
It's-
4.
No, it's not that one.
joining
It's
home.
the one to the left.
I mean, I can point it out.
Yeah, that, no, the next one to the left. Yep. Yep.
All the letters came from those because they literally paved the driveway all the way to the road edge.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like it's definitely needed. Just wanted to balance your support.
Yeah. I don't,
We don't pull up the Google Earth. It wasn't shared before the agenda packet, so it'd probably be inappropriate for us to try to find it and document that. It's new information that wasn't publicly advertised in the agenda.
Tracy?
I don't have letters, but I do have a little bit of my memory left, my old age. And 8 years worth of memory of receiving phone calls from residents asking for sidewalks along this section is plentiful. I don't have a number, but it's a lot more than the 4 or 5 letters of people rejecting. It's more like 10, 20, 30 phone calls a year. People want to know why there's no sidewalk there. So we receive plenty of phone calls every year of people actually wanting sidewalk. And that's why we approached Palm Beach County, since it's their road, about putting a sidewalk in and bike lanes also.
Well, maybe you can show up at that TPA meeting, help them out. Body.
Yeah,
I'm
just
sure
add one
Naresh would
point.
be willing.
You know, we included in the package a picture from Google Earth. It was showing about maybe 7 or 8 people on the Segway using that segment. So it's not only bikers, it's really all kind of users. It's a perfect location to have a bike lane and a sidewalk.
Yeah, agreed. There's a lot of density and activity and destinations and so it makes perfect sense. So you want to go to the next one?
Wait, I just one comment.
Oh,
is-
sorry,
real
Jean.
quick, Is that, the sidewalks are really needed because there's a lot of people who live in the condos, including friends of mine that just moved out of there, that are in their 80s. They want to walk, but they don't want to walk in the grass. Well, they can't even get from Camino Real to A1A unless they walk in the road or in the grass. And there are a lot of people in those buildings that really need those sidewalks so then they can get out to A1A. So, and out to the beach. So sidewalks are key to this.
Okay, let's go to the next project. City of West Palm. We have any comments on this from the committee? It's a continuation of what's already there in phase 1. You answered my question regarding those advisory bike lanes function as a share because I was trying to figure out what engineer approved a 6.5 foot travel lane and how can they come to Jupiter? Because we have like 12 and 13. So
Yeah.
Fadi,
I think the same question. Could you explain the dimensions? What the total road widths and how much remains once you put those advisory bike lane?
Sure. So I will invite Kevin up to explain that, but I will say that advisory bike lanes are up to MUTCD standards. So Kevin.
Yeah, so basically the road width is going to stay the same. It's going to have the advisory bike lanes on the outside, which can be utilized for vehicle traffic. It's going to become sort of a quasi yield street because of the fact that it's got 13 feet of designated vehicle lanes with the advisory bike lanes to be used when there's no bicycles there. And so we're providing the means for bicycles to continue the pathway that they have to the south of there, as well as, enhancing the crosswalk markings and just making it a safer environment and a new infrastructure there for all modes of transportation to use in that section up to 40th Street.
go ahead, Fadi.
Would there be a line, a marked line in the center of the road?
No, actually, there won't.
I mean, is there a liability issue with?
I don't believe so, no.
What's the speed? I mean, I'm familiar with this area, but the speed limit is pretty low.
25 miles an hour.
Is there an idea? And I think that there's a certain threshold in volume for vehicles per hour, vehicles per day. that this might not necessitate the center line marking as well. Is that true to be here?
Yes, that's correct.
You know, I always appreciate West Palm because you guys maintain your gridded streets and you get to do some progressive changes with your complete streets, which make it a very good example for us to, who are a little bit more newer, can point to and say, look, nobody's died here and it still works and people can walk to school and ride their bike and it feels good. So, you know, I appreciate the, you know, progressive work that you guys do. I mean, it also helps to have a gridded street and that you don't have huge corridors like we do. Patty.
Just a follow-up. No, I understand it's unique location, low speed, low volume. But typically when you drive, you know, you try to stay clear of the bike lane. And you have two opposing cars clearly, unless they go on the bike lane, they're gonna hit each other. Has this been implemented other places? Do we have history about how safe it is?
Well, it's implemented to the south of that, actually all the way down from 25th to 36th Street.
For how
And
long has been implemented?
that's been there since 2018.
Oh, okay, cool, thanks.
Michael, sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good morning, everyone. This segment of Spruce is adjacent to Northborough Elementary, and I was wondering, I think there's a 20-mile-per-hour school zone on that segment. I know that the county's been looking at making adjustments to existing school zones insofar as, you know, length and where they start and where they end. I was wondering, is there any thought to any changes to that particular school zone on this side of on this segment of Spruce?
Not that I'm aware of. I think it's going to stay the same way it is.
Okay, I was just curious because if there was going to be any adjustment, you know, any way, shape, or form. Thank you.
I don't see any more comments or questions for West Palm. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next project is Palm Beach Gardens. Anybody have any comments? Oh, Tracy?
This is a top project for me because I'm definitely for any type of improvements around schools and parks. But I do have a question or two. As far as the typical sections, it showed some lighting that might be within the clear zone requirements. And also I'm wondering, when you widen the sidewalk, that how that's going to affect the drainage. If there's anybody here to answer.
I am here from Palm Beach Gardens. The clear zone, what clear zone do you mean?
Well, this, I can find the section that showed some lights.
You know what? Todd
Ian.
is, I'm sorry, our city engineer is on the call also, and if it's okay, he can answer the questions.
Okay, that's great.
If you're on the phone, please remind yourself to unmute, and it looks like we have your hand raised. So give us 1 second.
Yep, you're able to unmute at this time. You'll just need to do that for yourself on Zoom. Using the unmute feature. And Todd, we are noting you. You would just need to unmute yourself. It seems like he's unable to unmute himself. I'm not sure if we'd like to try to continue the discussion.
Okay, I guess if you could elaborate your question while Todd is figuring out his technology. Tracy, on the clear zone that you were talking about, the conflict and the lighting.
On one or two of the typical sections, it shows lighting. Maybe 5.5 feet from the edge of pavement. Depending on the AADT and some other geometrical features, the clear zone should be more than 5.5 feet. So I'm just worried about objects being placed in the clear zone requirements. Objects, non-movable objects are required to be a certain distance from the edge of the pavement. And since this is open section, then if it was a curb and gutter section, then it's 2 to 4 feet. But since it's an open section, those requirements are a lot greater. But, I mean, I'm going to vote for it anyway. I'm just wondering. Okay.
Todd, it looks like you're unmuted, so if you'd like to try speaking, you can do so.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I missed the main question because I wasn't a participant, so I had to log out and log back in. Can you just reiterate the question?
Will the lighting, the typical section shows some lighting, will that be outside the roadway clear zone?
Yeah, if we were going to widen the sidewalk mainly on the south side, so if we have to put any lighting that would fall in that clear zone, it would go on the north side of the road.
Okay, that's it.
I also thought this project was really good because of the adjacency to parks, the destinations, the school. You know, we did a walk audit with you guys adjacent to a school, and it's really a minimum. And the fact that there isn't one there, you know, I think is a really shame, but good for us for the garden submitting it, and hope it all goes well. There's any, Tracy, you have another question? Comment?
Sure. I was done, but widening that sidewalk, will it affect the drainage? Because you're going to be affecting the small swell there, and it does appear to be there's drainage structures that collect the water from the swell into an underground system.
Yes, it will affect the drainage slightly, but we've allocated some money for that to make those adjustments. We'll have to adjust some tops that we have into valley grate tops that will fit inside that concrete sidewalk.
And that's included in the cost?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Just following up on what Tracy said, just if you're looking at the design of the drainage relative to the new landscape area, you might want to consider how you can capitalize on that water runoff to help water the plants, so that you don't need to necessarily irrigate. And we look at those types of things along our right of ways, in which we try to design our landscaping that doesn't require those resources and irrigation. So, you know, silvacells, those types of things, you know, rain gardens in association also provide beauty and buffering for the pedestrian. So, but good project. Thanks. So we can go to the last item, which is the Indian Trail Improvement District, if no one else has a comment on that one. Okay. Anybody? Oh, Jean.
Of course, it's ADA compliant, but non-paved. Is it going to be shell rock then?
Can you repeat that last part?
Is it going to be a shell rock trail? What's the surface proposed?
It's a gravel base, so it's similar to a shell rock base. It's just that it's compact to a certain extent, and that will maintain the ADA compliant level service.
Will it accommodate horses as well?
That is a question I'll let the town answer. Or the improvement district answers. Scarlett.
Scarlett, if you want to go up.
Does the pathway accommodate equestrian users? Could you use the microphone for us and introduce yourself, please? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Scarlett Cantley, and it's not really, this project isn't designed for equestrian. That's not what we're pushing with this project. It's more for the safe passage between the schools and the park. We're expanding the park out there, so there's more bike and walkers, coming to it. So it's not geared for equestrian.
Why was a decision made to do like a shell rock base versus asphalt?
Our engineers online, Joe Capper, that might be able to answer that more, but I believe it was just where it would fit in more with the ruralness of the district.
Yeah, it is a very rural district.
Can I interject? This is Joe Capra. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
First of all, I'm Joe Capra. I'm a consultant that works for the Indian Trails Improvement District. And first thing I'd like to just say is thank you. You've helped us on many projects out there. The TPA, as you may know, may not know, the district basically gets all their funding for roadway, drainage, and park projects through its residents. We don't get other dollars from any other agencies, except when we apply for grants from you folks, which you've been very helpful to us. So I just want to make sure you understand, on the map that's in front of you, the red line, I believe, is supposed to be the line for where we're putting this. It actually should be moved over. It should be moved over to the park road. So the right, yeah, where you're showing the arrow, can you see that arrow? That's where the improvements are being placed on 140th. So it's
I will just note that he's referring to a block west, Ted.
There you go.
Where it is on the map.
Yeah, that was my bad. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. But basically that road there is 140th. As you can see, the Acreage Community Park is on your left there. And it is the biggest park, I believe, in the district, gets a lot of use. And so it's really important that we got these alternate modes of transportation to get to that park. You can also see on the slide, the Acreage Pines Elementary School. So that allows them ability to get to the park from the school and so forth. And then on your lower right, because 61st Street is on the bottom of the page, that's where the fire station is. Now that's a critical facility, and I know that may not be important transportation, but if you look in the lower right of 61st Street of where the line is, that's the fire station. But across the street from that is actually ITID District's main headquarters. Okay, so basically we're tying together some very important facilities in the district. Okay, and what I also would like to explain to you, this is kind of a partnership. Okay, currently the ITID is paving certain roads. Okay, they've sold the bonds, and these two roads are going to be paved in what we call the R3 program. Okay, and that'll happen in the next year. Okay, and what's important to recognize is, the ITID is actually putting money up for that work, and certainly there's sidewalks associated with that, and then so it's important to recognize we're actually putting a bunch of money into this corridor. It's not only roadway improvements, paving improvements, because if you look at some of the pictures from it, they're gravel roads out there now and some paved roads. Okay, the roads will be overlaid, the roads will be paved. Again, we will be providing some other pathways that are in our typical section. The other thing that's important, right? Each one of the roads that we do in the R3 program has traffic calming. So we will have basically speed tables or other type of traffic calming on those roads that are planned in that program. So essentially we're doing a project here, and then we're hoping that you will help contribute to that by allowing us to have a multi-use trail on in this case, it'll be on the south side of 61st, and I believe it's on the east side of 140th. Okay, so I wanted you to understand this is we're working together on two different projects at the same time. Yours may come a little later because of the funding cycle you have. I think your money will be available in 2026. We will have the road in place. We will have some of the sidewalk in place. We certainly could use a little more money if you have some extra, because as I told you, everything we do out there in the district, other than what money we get from you folks, and maybe some other grants, but basically that the residents are paying for. Again, I think you'll find that even though, we have not designated as an equestrian trail, the firm surfaces we are proposing does support equestrian, okay? It does support it, but we've been cautioned to not emphasize equestrian on these facilities. So we have other uses for that, right? We have bicycle users. There are people out there with other types of transportation means, whether it's going to be bicycles, it could be golf carts and so forth. So we basically have, our plan is to have a paved surface. We have a sidewalk that'll be paved. And then we also have the multi-use trail here. So that's why we're asking for the money. If I had known that we probably, I think our surface kind of gives us an opportunity to various options here. Again, I would also want to remind you, thank you for funding a study that we did, a mobility plan for the whole district. And in that mobility plan, Kim Delaney with the Regional Planning Council, she developed a program of not only traffic calming roadways, also bioswales and so forth to help in our drainage areas, on our intersections, but also this concept of this type of pathway system that can be used by multifaceted transportation needs. So anyways, I just wanted you to know the history of that. So that's the program we're working on. It was a mobility plan that you guys funded for us. It's been completed. I think it was completed in 2020. And we are following that in all the road improvements that we are doing, both by what the R3 program, as well as the request that we make for grants, as this is asking for here.
Great.
Anyways, I said many things. I'll let you go ask some more questions.
Thank you. I see Mr. Goodenough has his card up.
I appreciate that you're offering a sidewalk and a shared use path. I'm really opposed to just having shared use paths. I think it's dangerous to put bicycles and pedestrians and segways and electric scooters and we really need to consider letting pedestrians be on a sidewalk and not sticking them in with all those motorized vehicles.
Okay, thanks. And Tracy? Oh, and then Jean.
Yeah, so this had a quick question. Hate to be the drainage guy, but I do see you have the pay items for embankment to regrade this well line and something for driveway adjustments. If you're regrading this well line, there might be some issues with having to redo the culvert or extend the minor intersections. And I don't see any pay items for that.
Yeah, so you're right. We have embankment, regrade the swell lines, and again, what I probably should have, as I said, we're doing the R3 program. So I'm looking at two different costs and it's going to be done ahead of this project. Basically, that does have driveway culverts in that. It has also pipe work and so forth, and some more swell work. So I'm kind of working on two different. As I said, it's kind of like you're helping us with the multi-use trail, and we're doing all the other stuff with the R3 program that we're working on.
Okay.
So, but it's good comment. Believe me, I'm a drainage guy. I know what you're talking about. We need to make sure we keep the water out of the areas where the people are walking, as well as keep the road usable during heavy rainstorms. So yeah, we do have it, and I apologize that we didn't send you the R3 program improvement, but they do address that.
Thank you.
Jean?
This sidewalk, it leads residents directly to Acreage Community Park. It's a hugely needed improvement. This is a super busy park. It's it is the biggest for Indian Trails, and it's the biggest in the area. It is so popular. And the Parks and Recreation has done an analysis, Palm Beach County, of safe routes where our goal is a park within or green space within 10-minute walk of every resident of Palm Beach County. And we've done analysis about where we're missing sidewalks and where we're missing safe routes. And I cannot support this enough. It just to get kids. Can you imagine walking home and it's at dusk and you're walking with your baseball bat or something and cars come along and they hardly see you? Now you can be off the road. This is a great thing.
Thanks, Jean. Bruce?
Yeah, just if you could just clarify a point, you've on your presentation here, you're requesting 767,000 and on our information sheets, it says 966.
So that number on the screen, that's the requested funding. So that's the participating cost. I'm not sure which, maybe that total that you're looking at, that might be the total with participating and non-participating costs.
It's in our agenda, that's all. It was a table provided in our agenda because I did the math and I was like, wait a minute. And then I saw it later, I saw it later as the 767,000. But I think it was just a misplacement of numbers. Yeah, not a big deal.
Okay.
Body?
Yeah, I just want to echo what Joe mentioned. I think we're at the county, we do assist with some studies, ITID, but ultimately they have to pay for the improvement and whatever help they can get, whatever grant they can get, that would be very useful for them.
I just had one comment was for Indian Trails. Maybe Scarlett, you can look at this, but in Jupiter, we've looked at True Grid, which is a proprietary product, but it provides drainage and it gives the look. It can even have grass grow over it. It allows in certain places you can drive cars on it depending upon the type of it's that durable if you're looking at something, but it's an option for better water quality. So you don't have to address drainage in the future. So just something you might want to look into instead of shell rock. And
That's a good suggestion. I just want you to know, thank you. That was a good suggestion. We have looked at some other alternatives, but True Grid may be one that we should look at closer. Maybe we could do an alternative bid item on that.
Based on our estimates, it is the same as an asphalt sidewalk cost wise implementation. So that's all of our projects. If we don't have any more comments or questions, there's adequate money here. So, I mean, the recommendation, if I could get a recommendation to adhere to the TPA staff ranking and a motion. Sure, David.
Considering the $157,000 extra dollars, does that get carried over to next year? If there are cost overruns, does that get rolled into the current applications? What happens to it?
Sure. So just a couple of things about the anticipated total funding amount available. So this is an estimate, first and foremost, of the money that's going to be available to our urbanized area for transportation alternatives. That number is not final. So that number could go down. 5.1 million could potentially go up. We could have more money. It could go down. That depends on how things shake out in the work program and how other things. It's a pretty safe bet because the work program is stable, but that's the anticipated total available amount for this third year out. The total requested is also highly subject to change. This is still going through the vetting process with FDOT. So some estimates for any of these projects could very well also go up. The difference would remain available to the work program as the TPA and others see fit. So the other projects could come up. DOT could potentially use these for other improvements that are necessary to that are within the scope of the TA funds, But for the most part, that's a difference. That's an unspent allocation for the urbanized area. Nevertheless, as I said before, I feel very comfortable with having a little bit of a cushion. You know, it's a nice amount, but that being said, DOT could come back and let us know that some things might need to change in the individual projects, which might adjust the cost estimates either up or down. So for what it's worth, we couldn't do another project in that amount. That would be a very small allocation. But there is a small difference that it would be remaining in the work program for TA for this fiscal year.
So I just don't want us to have to give it back. I mean, if we can find some way to use it, I mean, if we can roll it back into this program, that'd be ideal. But $150,000, you know, is not a big amount of money to them. To us, you know, that could be, you know, a cost overrun for something else, and you know, we have that money available. So I just don't want us to have to give it back.
That's fair. And, you know, there could be other things that communities could consider potentially adding. You know, there are small micro adjustments that you could do, like parking and little things like that, that might drive up the cost to help reduce that number. You're never going to hit $0 perfectly with any work program, but for what it's worth, only having a very small margin, being unallocated $100,000 of a $5 million program for a year is pretty good. So I appreciate and I agree with that sentiment, David. Love to have more TA projects if we can get them.
Can I get a motion?
A motion to accept TA's ranking and project submittals as ranked and to fund all 5 projects, and also to utilize as much of that 157,000 as possible if projects have cost overruns.
Can I get a second?
A second.
Oh,
So
who? Can I try the second? Bruce, I know you want to make a motion.
So I'm going to repeat back the motion to you, just to clarify, and maybe I can simplify it for you if you're agreeable to that. So it's a motion to recommend adoption of the 2023 Transportation Alternatives Project Application Scoring and Ranking as outlined on the screen, and where feasible, allocate additional funding to projects to make improvements where possible. Thank you.
Sounds good.
And just as a reminder, this is subject obviously to the governing board. We are a recommending body. They will have the final determination of the list of priority projects. But we're happy to have all of our projects at least be programmed or at least ready to go for them, and amounts as well. Just want to point out that Michael Owens has his hand raised. I see that on the screen.
Oh, Michael.
Hi, yes, just a question. I know the original motion is just to recommend adoption of the 2023 TA program project application rankings. If we're, and I don't know if I'm being a stickler or what, but if we're adding stuff to that, don't we have to hear the first, hear the original motion and then either let it die, then come up with a substitute motion to add that stuff?
No, sir.
Oh, okay.
It sounded the same to me. I don't.
There could be other modest improvements that projects would do, you know, maybe tactile warning devices, you know, additional signage, that type of thing. That would have a very, very minor impact on the scoring and therefore the ranking, and we wouldn't bring it back. Just because those scores would be so modestly adjusted before going to the governing board. So ultimately, what we're looking for is really the ranking, and we can work with the applicants in the coming weeks and with our partners at DOT to ensure that through the vetting that nothing else is needing to be adjusted in those projects. But ultimately, the ranking is what the governing board will use in our list of priority projects to give to DOT, going back to that schedule, and we'll get the first glimpse of a draft tentative work program somewhere in the October, November timeframe to see what the project allocations are.
Okay, just
So
wanted to
we
check.
have a
Thank you.
motion. Thank you, Michael. We have a motion from Jean, seconded by Bruce. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Madam Chair,
I'm sorry.
I have a quick comment.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
oh, and that was Bruce G too, that seconded, that 2 Bruces. I jumped out a couple of times before the discussion on the motion. I'm still fairly new. That was pure habit. In my previous life, I've served 3 terms on the Riviera Beach City Council. And we adhere by the Robert Rules of Order. And they suggest, and there's no right or wrong way to conduct meetings. I'm just telling you why I've been jumping out.
Oh, no, we appreciate it. Trust me.
Yeah, and normally there's a motion, then the second, then there's discussion with Robert's rules. But there's no right or wrong way. So forgive me, it's just a habit. I served 3 terms and we have 30, 40 items on the agenda and we got to keep them moving. And that's just pure habit.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So we have no informational items and now the administrative items 4A and D are informational. There's no staff presentations unless there's a committee member that would like any information. Are there any other comments from the public, Amanda?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so our next meeting is May 4th and next month. So we hope to see everybody then. And it's nice to see all the new faces. Haven't met everybody yet, but I hope to do that really soon. And we'll see you next month. Thanks.
Take care, everyone. Be safe.
Did I say May? Wait a minute. Is it May 4th or May 3rd? I've got a date on the agenda.
I apologize. It's May 4th.
May 4th. It is May 4th. Okay, so I said it right. Thank you. Here's
Thank
two.
you.